I think if you look back at 2016 for the Rams organization, it's a matter of perspective. On one hand, the team traded up massively to get Jared Goff at number one overall, and I still stand by my statement in leading to that draft that they picked the wrong guy. But that's ultimately who they picked. And then he looked totally unprepared for the NFL level, and when he finally got in, he was terrible. So you have a team that invested a number one overall pick in a quarterback that looks like he might be out of the league in 3 years, not making Pro Bowls. Still early to judge, yes, but not a lot of positive to come out of that experience. You saw Todd Gurley take a big step back in 2016. Some of that was on him. A lot of it was on the offensive line. Some of it's on the play calling. A lot of these things. So you're talking about your last two first-round picks had taken big significant steps back, or at least in the case of Gurley, took a significant step back. Jared Goff never took a step forward. The team was bad. They didn't have a first-round pick in the 2017 draft because of said Jared Goff trade. So you could look at it and say that was terrible. And that was a horrible season. But ultimately, that horrible season brought to an end the tenure of Jeff Fisher as the team's head coach. So as much as anything else, that may ultimately end up being the positive that comes out of 2016, was that ownership, general manager Les Snead had no choice but to pull the trigger and send Jeff Fisher packing. And maybe that's the positive that come out of it, and that's the most important thing to come out of 2016. It's not about wins and losses. It might not even have been about Goff's development or lack of development, or frankly, even regression based off of what I saw out of him at Cal. It was getting Jeff Fisher out the door. So the Rams went in a weird direction in a sense. They went with a totally unproven guy, a 30-year-old Sean McVay, who had only spent a couple of years as the offensive coordinator of the Washington Redskins, but in that time, you saw Kirk Cousins develop into being a franchise-level type of quarterback at the NFL level. Then they bring in, to counterbalance that, bum son Wade Phillips to become the new defensive coordinator. You balancing out the young head coach with the experienced veteran defensive coordinator, where you're now going to switch defensive schemes from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and especially interesting considering there was some talk that Wade Phillips was ruffling some feathers in Denver, kind of going behind the coach's back and so on and so forth. So it'll be really interesting to see how this whole dynamic plays out. But in general, wherever Wade Phillips has gone, from a defensive standpoint, Denver, Houston, so many other stops beforehand, typically his defenses play really, really well, especially when he's just the defensive coordinator. And you look at this team in this offseason, they made some moves that they needed to. They needed to get better on the offensive line, so they go out and sign guys like Andrew Whitworth and John Sullivan. Whitworth's a bit old to be hyping up as a big free agent signing, but he's had a nice, long, productive career, and frankly, he's going to be better than anything else that they probably were going to trot out there. John Sullivan is a guy that should start on the inside for them. At the receiving core, they know they needed help there, so you sign Robert Woods in free agency, you trade for Sammy Watkins. Defensively, with the switch to the 3-4, you know you needed some guys that could actually play that outside linebacker edge rusher role, so you bring in Connor Barwin from the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, so there were some competent moves made. Sammy Watkins, I feel like for the Rams was worth the 1-year gamble, because if he does become that guy, then you're going to have the ability to give him a big deal anyways. And if he's not, then he's not. But you kind of had to roll the dice, because right now you had to go as all in on as possible to try and get more out of Jared Goff, to hope that Jared Goff becomes that guy, because if he doesn't, none of this is going to matter anyways. Then in the 2017 draft, with the limited picks that they had, they get the tight end from South Alabama, Gerald Everett. You get the wide receiver from Eastern Washington, Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver from Texas A&M, Josh Reynolds. They invested a lot in improving the offensive talent around Jared Goff, which was exactly what the primary emphasis needed to be for this organization in the offseason. Now, when we look at this roster heading into 2017, I see an improved O-line. Still not great. And ultimately, you sent 2014 second overall pick Greg Robinson packing, just admitting how much of a bust he ultimately was. But bringing in Whitworth and Sullivan, another year for some other guys in the lineup having playing time, I would expect this O-line to improve a little bit. I think the receiving core has definitely been upgraded. Now you've got Watkins, you've got Woods, you've got Cooper Kupp, you've got Tavon Austin still there in a role that will be better suited to him, and a coach that is better equipped to know how to actually utilize a guy like Tavon Austin. The receiving talent, that cupboard is not bare. And then I look defensively at the linebackers. You got Robert Quinn and Connor Barwin are probably going to be your primary edge rushers. Alec Ogletree on the inside. That's a solid group of linebackers. Not bad at all. But this is still a team with a ton of questions. And first off, it's not a good thing when you're getting ready to head into week 1 of the NFL season and your best player is still holding out for a long-term deal. And don't get me wrong, I'm with Aaron Donald. Get paid as much as you possibly can and hold their tits to the fire if you must. Get your money while you can. Because shame on this organization for not having gotten it done. And there's a part of me that wonders if Aaron Donald is in such a big hurry to get this contract done because he's afraid of the switch to the 3-4 defense and wondering how it might affect his sack or other production totals. And he's afraid that it'll impact the amount of big money he would get, let's say, next offseason. So I get it. Get your money. And the Rams should have already gotten this done. I don't care. No excuse. Get it done. You find a way to get it done. Because now you've got your best defensive player, where you've now switched the defensive scheme to where he's such a stud, he's going to fit and he'll be just fine, but he's still ultimately best suited for a 4-3. So you're taking your best defensive player and putting him in a scheme that is not best suited for him. He will just make it work because he's that much of a fucking stallion. But the fact that this team does not have him signed long-term and in camp and ready to play week 1 is just an absolute crock. Then you look at Todd Gurley, your first-round pick from 2015. He had a really good rookie year. 2016, not so much. And now you're getting to year 3. And you're going to have to start thinking about long-term. Is he going to be the type of guy that we want to invest a lot of money in? Is he going to be a big-time featured factor back for us or not? And Todd Gurley's got to show something here in year number 3. It's kind of nut-cutting time for him. You're talking about, Aaron Donald, one of their 2 first-round picks in 2014, isn't in camp at the time of this recording. He's not looking like he's going to play in week 1. The other first-round pick for 2014, the guy that took number 2 overall, Greg Robinson, is no longer on the team. So you've get nothing from your first-round picks in 2014. Excuse me. Your first-round pick in 2015 regressed mightily. And then you get to the first-round pick in 2016, Jared Goff, who showed you really no flashes of anything last season as a rookie. Now you wonder what the hell is going to happen with this team if he doesn't develop, and can he develop? And that's really what this season is all about. I still have some concerns about this team switching to a 3-4. I think they might be able to work it out, but sometimes it could take a little bit of time for teams to get acclimated to the scheme and get the right pieces in place. And I don't know if the Rams have all the right pieces in place to run the 3-4 right now. So when you're talking about a massive change in defensive philosophy from a 4-3 to a 3-4, you have one of your first-round picks for 2014 gone from the organization. Your other one, your best player on the team, is holding out and is currently not with the team. Your 2015 first-round pick struggled mightily last year. Your 2016 first-round pick struggled mightily last year. I just don't know where the fuck anybody would get off thinking that the fortunes look good for the Rams heading into 2017. I just don't see it. I look at it like their early schedule. You got your first 2 games at home. That's great. You've got Indianapolis, who's going to have Scott Tolzien starting, so maybe you can win a game at home. Then you've got Sean McVay facing his old team in the Redskins, so maybe you win that game too. Week 3, you go to San Francisco. Maybe you're looking to beat a team that beat you twice last year. So crazy shit could happen where the Rams start off the season 3-0. That's not out of the realm of possibility. And people could get all giggly tits and hyped up and excited about it. And then, weeks 5 through 7, they host Seattle, go to Jacksonville, host Arizona. So 2 of those 3 games against divisional teams. And people are probably thinking after years of beating Seattle once, if not twice, the Rams should be able to figure out a way to beat them once. That could have just been a Jeff Fisher thing. Like, he put all of his eggs into the beat Seattle at least once basket, and there was the one thing he could do with great regularity as a coach. But there are just so many questions about this team. When is Aaron Donald going to end his contract holdout? Are they going to get him signed to a long-term deal? How many games is he going to miss potentially? How is Todd Gurley going to look? How is Jared Goff going to look? How is this team going to adapt defensively to the 3-4 scheme under Wade Phillips? This team wins any more than 6 games, I'll be stunned. I think they may be heading in a little bit of a right direction, but I've got no indication that Jared Goff is that guy. And if he's not the guy, you can forget it. This organization is going to be in a bad way for years to come. The one hope this Rams team has early on in the year, I think, is the schedule is a little favorable those first few weeks. And if they can win a few games out of the gate and they can get themselves kind of in a good position, feeling good about themselves early, build up some confidence. Maybe the defense comes together quickly. Maybe Gurley plays better. Maybe Goff doesn't make a ton of mistakes. Then you get Aaron Donald back into the fold. Maybe this team could fool itself into thinking it's a lot better than it actually is. And frankly, sometimes that's what happens. It is. And you can make a playoff run doing that. But for too many years, I got behind this Rams team thinking that they were ready to take a step that they didn't take. So I'm not about to take that step off the cliff this year. This is a 6-win team, and I don't see how they're winning any more than that.